Alrighty, so I guess I didn't officially introduce myself, but my name is Sophie, and I'm really excited to be teaching you today, Elizabeth. I'm just going to go through a little bit of a consent. I'm sure you've heard it a million times before, but in order to make these classes as freely accessible as possible to our participants, you'll be using a verbal warning and assumption of risk at the beginning of class. Participation in this online class is voluntary. Physical activity programs may result in injury, and by participating, you assume the risk of injury that may result from your participation. We strongly recommend that you participate from a space that is suitable for this activity. For example, make sure that you have moved nearby furniture and other potential hazards. If you're participating in a yoga class or a class that involves laying on the ground, we recommend using a mat, or if you don't have one, a carpeted area. Participants are encouraged to stop if they experience pain or injury and should seek appropriate medical advice or care as needed. William & Mary Health and Wellness strongly recommends that each participant have an annual physical examination and follow the advice of your healthcare provider before participating. So I'm sure you've heard that a million and one times, but gotta do it. All right, and I think without further ado, we can get started. So we're just going to get started on the mat in any seated, comfortable position. In any position that feels comfortable to you. Maybe it's cross-legged, maybe it's lotus if that is in your practice. Maybe closing your eyes or coming to a soft gaze in front. And starting to turn inwards into the breath, into the mind. And just noticing how the body feels today. Maybe it feels nice and loose. Maybe it's not there yet. And that's okay. That's where we're headed. And starting to take stock of where your body ends and the earth begins. And starting to circle into the breath. Noticing every inhale and every exhale. Starting to breathe intention into our practice. Maybe we start with a pranayama practice. We'll start with our stepwise breathing and exhale all of the air out of our lungs to start. And then we'll inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And exhaling all of the air out of the lungs and returning to a comfortable, natural breath cycle that feels good in the body, in the lungs. And maybe we bring our hands to heart center and start to think of an intention for today's practice. And this can be absolutely anything you want to dedicate today's practice to. It can be a person, a place, a thing, a mantra. And if you'd like to borrow mine for today's practice, it's going to be to try to connect with the earth. Tomorrow is Earth Day. So trying to become one with the nature and the earth around us. And when we have that intention, we're going to inhale together. Lots of love in to set that intention, and exhale to let go of everything not currently on our mats today. Good. And then when you are ready, you can place your hands over at one side, maybe blink your eyes open. And then just start to lengthen up, maybe grow an extra inch, even though we're on the ground right now. Pressing those shoulders down and away, feeling nice and open in the heart. And maybe we start to inhale our left arm up and gently start to reach over to the other side, lengthening through the left side of the body. And exhale back up and swimming those arms over to the other side. Focusing on lengthening through the right side rather than crunching over. Good, and swimming on to the other side. On our exhale, we're going to do this one more time, nice and slow. And swimming over to the other side. On an inhale. And on an exhale, we can gently let that right hand come down. Good, and maybe just introducing a little bit of light movement. Nothing too much, maybe just a little bit of neck movement. Maybe as simple as looking from the right side and then to the left side. Maybe gently waking up our wrists and finding a little bit of a wrist stretch. Nice and light, nothing too much. We're still warming up. Good. And then when you're ready, we can come back and then gently, nice and slow, come up to our standing mountain. Taking all the time in the world that we need. And we'll start by just planting our 3 points of the foot into the ground, lengthening up through both feet, finding that micro bend in the knee. Lengthen up through the spine. Start counting those vertebrae all the way up and externally rotating those shoulders and pressing them away from the ears. Good. And on an inhale, we're going to swan dive all the way down, flat backing, hands through heart center. And we exhale into our forward fold. Take a moment to relax the head and the neck. Release any tension you may be holding in the neck. Maybe you nod your head yes, or shake your head no. Maybe gently reaching for opposite elbows and swinging from side to side in a ragdoll. And then coming back to stillness, we're going to bend our knees as much as we need to get those palms on the floor. If that means that your quads are touching your abdomen, that's totally fine. And we're going to find our hands to feet or gorilla. So gently picking up each foot one at a time and slipping your hands underneath. Maybe you take a moment and massage your hands with your feet or vice versa. Maybe you shift your weight from one foot to the other. And then taking a moment, gently replacing your palms back onto the floor, one at a time. Take one last breath cycle in your forward fold. We'll inhale for halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. And then on a big inhale, we'll reverse swan dive back up to standing, hands through heart center. Right, we can keep those hands at heart center, going straight into our chairs sequence. So just engaging the core and lengthening through the spine, pressing those shoulders down away from the ears. We'll inhale to prepare. And exhale, sit down in that imaginary chair. Good. Lengthening through the cervical spine, ensuring that we're not cranking our neck up. Just allowing it to lengthen forward. Remembering to slowly sip in the air and exhale. And when you're ready, we can come back up to standing. Maybe take a moment, shake out the legs. Maybe you sit and let it burn just a little bit. And then we're going into our second and final of the chair sequence. Here you can do exactly what we just did, just staying right in our normal chair. Or if you'd like to, you can come up onto those toes and find our hummingbird. It's up to you. So when we're ready, we're going to inhale, prepare, and sit down into that imaginary chair. Good. Engaging the core and lengthening through the spine. Deep inhales and exhales. Look awesome, you're doing great. And we'll stay here for 3, 2, 1, and slowly come back up and release. Good, now you can really shake out those legs. Awesome. So we're going to the top of our mat next, and we're going to find our warrior 2 sequence. So finding our nice strong mountain pose, finding that alignment that we started at the beginning of the class. We're going to engage the core and shift the weight into the left leg, pick up that right back foot and send it to the back of the mat. Good. On that 45-degree angle. And then we'll inhale our arms so that they're parallel to the mat. Good. Breathing nice and deep. And then we'll flip that front left hand and slowly send it to the sky, lengthening all the way up. And you can keep that arm nice and straight, or if you'd like to, you can find a slight back bend. Maybe the right arm finds a bend. Good. And then on an exhale, we bring those hands back so that they're parallel to the mat. And then we'll tuck in the left arm onto the quad and let the right hand come all the way overhead, creating a nice long line with the body. This is our extended side angle. Good. And then cartwheeling those hands back up. And then we'll straighten that left leg and reach forward. So we're reaching for something on a table until we can't reach anymore and we start to tilt. Good. So reaching all the way up to the ceiling. Engaging that core, trying to make the body nice and flat, as if we're between 2 panes of glass. And then we'll re-fall down the right hand down to the mat. Pause for a moment here, and you can stay right here, or if you'd like to, you can start to make that spinal twist. So raising that left arm all the way up, finding a spinal twist. And remembering to breathe. And then we'll slowly fall down the left hand back to the mat and pause before we raise that right hand all the way up. We'll engage that core and bring the upper body off the mat nice and slow with lots of caution. Good. We'll bring our hands to heart center and bend into that warrior 2 once again. Good. And when you're ready, we can float back up to mountain. Good. Shake it off up. And then we'll go right into the other side. So shifting the weight into the right leg, making sure you have a nice micro bend in that knee. We're going to bring that left leg to the back of the mat on our 45-degree angle And inhale those arms up. I'm accentuating my breathing so that you can breathe along with me. We're going to flip that right hand and slowly send it to the sky. Maybe you find a slight back bend. Maybe the left hand comes to a bind. And we'll flip that right hand and send it back, parallel to the mat. And then we'll tuck in that right hand, send it to the quad, and the left hand goes all the way overhead. Engaging that core. This is extended side angle. Engaging that core, we're going to cartwheel those hands back up and straighten that front leg. Good. Reaching all the way front and then tilting. Engaging that core. We'll rain fall down the left hand and pause for a moment. And then raise the right hand all the way up, finding our spinal twist. And we rain fall down the right hand. Pause for a moment. And then raise the left hand back up. Engaging the core, slowly bring the upper body back off the mat. Good. And then we'll bend into that right leg once again. And bring our hands to heart center. Take one cleansing breath cycle in our warrior two. And then we can float back up to the mountain. Good. And maybe shaking out the legs. We're going into our pyramid sequence. It's a good idea. So when you're ready, we'll come back up to the top of the mat. Maybe take a slight step back. We're going to come into our pyramid sequence. So we're just going to shift the weight into the left leg and bring the right leg back into our pyramid. So both of our hips are shining forward like headlights on a car. We're going to lengthen up through the spine and inhale those arms all the way up, palms to touch. Pressing those shoulders down. We're going to start flat backing down while hinging at the hip crease until the pinkies touch the mat, at which point we can frame the foot with the hands and release any tension you may hold in your neck. If you'd like to find some dynamic movement, you can find some dynamic movement. Or you can stay perfectly still in your stretch. It's up to you. And when you're ready, we'll bring our palms back to touch and slowly come back up, trying to keep those hands by the ears, or the arms by the ears. And then we'll bring our hands in front, pressing those shoulders down, and slowly start to peel on the left side first. So we're creating that spinal twist. Remembering to breathe as we spinally twist. And we'll peel back up to the front. And start to counter that twist. Peel on the right side. Good. Embracing the open sensation. And slowly peel back up to the front. And we'll peel back on the left side one more time, just to see if we can gently start to twist a little more. And we'll peel back up to the front. Bring those hands to heart center. And we float back up to mountain. Good. We're going right into the left side. So once again, top of the mat, maybe we take a step back. Engaging the core, lifting up, maybe growing that extra inch. We'll shift our weight into the right leg and bring the left leg back into our pyramid. Making sure the hips are facing forward. We'll inhale the arms all the way up. And slowly hinge down until the pinkies touch the mat. And we can frame the front foot with our hands. Maybe finding some dynamic movement. And we'll bring our palms back to touch, lengthening those arms, and slowly come back up. And then we'll press our arms down in front of us. And we'll start to peel on the right side, creating that first spinal twist on this side. And we'll peel up to the front. And peel on the left. And we'll peel back up to the front. This is our last peel of the day. We'll peel back on the right. Recreating that spinal twist on the right side. Maybe noticing if you can just twist a little bit deeper. And we'll peel back up to the front. Bring our hands to heart center and float back up to mountain. Also, maybe shaking out those ankles. Maybe grabbing some water if you'd like. All right, wonderful. So we're going to go into a little bit of balancing here. So we're going to go into our eagle or Garudasana, and this is a personal favorite of mine. We're going to engage the core, bring those hands to heart center, and I'm going to do the best to mirror you in the video. So if you want to, you can follow exactly what I'm doing. So we're going to engage the core and shift the weight into the left standing leg. And then we'll bring that right leg into a one-legged Tadasana, flexing that foot. Good. And then we'll start to bend through the standing leg and cross over, making sure the knees are nice and close. It's not out to the side. And since our right leg is over, our right arm is going to come under. So you can bring your hands in sort of a prayer position. You can keep them right here. If you'd like to, you can bring the right arm just a little bit under. And if that doesn't feel comfortable, you can always bring them to opposite shoulders. Yeah. Good, engaging that core and finding that focal point in front to really stare at to keep that balance. Breathing nice and slow. Lengthening that spine. Stay here for 3, 2, 1. And you can slowly start to unwind, bring those hands back to heart center and bring the foot down. Good. We roll out through the standing leg. Good. And we're going right into the other side. We're going to engage the core and shift the weight into the right leg. And we'll bring the left up into a one-legged Tadasana, flexing that foot. And we'll start to cross over and bend in the starting leg, or in the standing leg, I mean. Good. All right. Oh, sorry. I think my internet just cut out. I'm so sorry. I apologize. And we're going to bend into that standing leg. And since the left leg is over, we can bring the left arm under and bring the hands to opposite shoulders. Good, engaging the core. And finding that focal point to stare at, keep our balance. Breathing nice and deep. And we'll stay here for 3, 2, 1, and slowly start to unwind. Lots of control. Good. And then maybe rolling out the standing legs. And take a moment in our mountain and just inhale. And exhale. Just ground yourself and take some nice cleansing breaths. That one was a really challenging pose. It was awesome. All right, our next balancing pose we're going to go to is our tree. So if you want to blink open those eyes and bring your hands to heart center, we're going to shift that weight into the left standing leg and bring the right leg in onto the toes and start to externally rotate it while still on the mat, making sure that our hips are nice and even. And you can stay right here, or if you'd like to, you can bring that leg below the knee or above the knee. Breathing nice and deep. Maybe we grow those branches upwards. Lengthening through the spine. And bring those hands back through heart center. Pausing for a moment. And we'll internally rotate that leg. And slowly send it back down. Good. Maybe rolling out or shaking out that standing leg. And we'll go right into the other side. Proud shoulders, proud heart. We're engaging the core, lengthening the spine, and shifting the weight into the left leg. Good. We're going to come on to that right leg and the left leg and externally rotate it while still on the mat. And we're going to bring it maybe off the floor onto the standing leg, or we can keep it on the mat. And maybe we grow those branches upwards. Remembering to breathe nice and deep. And then we'll bring the hands through heart center. Nice and slow. And internally rotate that leg and slowly send it back. Good. Maybe shake everything out. Maybe grab some water. Awesome. And the next place that we're headed is the floor. So we can take any way that we want to get down to the floor. A personal favorite is the yogi squat. So if you want to follow me in a yogi squat, you can do that. We're just going to take a nice, slightly wider than hip width apart distance. And we're just going to start squatting down, making sure to bring the tailbone all the way down as we're tucking a large tail underneath of us. So when you're ready, we'll engage the core and slowly start to squat down. And once you find that balance, maybe press into your elbows. That's okay. It's all right if you lose balance, you can just lay back. That one is a little bit tricky. All right, so just taking a moment. That's a good idea. I will also adjust my camera. Well, now that we are on the ground, just taking a moment, maybe closing our eyes, take a moment to connect with the earth. Maybe stacking those vertebrae once again, growing a little bit taller on the mat, nice and proud. Maybe circling back into the breath, into our intention for today's practice. And then we'll blink open those eyes once again. Good. Awesome. So we're just going to extend those feet in front of us and start flexing the feet. We're in our seated staff pose or Dandasana. We're going to take a moment and just plant those hands down onto the ground and gently start to walk forward. It's all right if they can't reach the feet. Maybe they just rest by the sides of your legs on the mat. And just taking a moment to allow the weight of the head to gently bring yourself down a little bit closer to the mat. And breathing through the stretch. Stopping at any points of pain. And when you're ready, we can gently walk those hands back up into our seated staff pose. Good. And then we can just bring in those knees into the chest. Maybe take a moment, take a big squeeze in. And bring those soles into the feet once again. We can engage the core and slowly lengthen our upper body down to the ground. Good. And with our knees still up at the ceiling and our feet nice and close together, maybe using our hands to guide our knees to the opposite sides of the mat, finding our butterfly or reclined bound angle. And our hands can come to the abdomen. They can go out to the sides. They can do cactus arms, whatever you'd like to do. Whatever speaks to you. Maybe your eyes come to a gentle close. Maybe take a moment just to melt a little bit deeper into the mat. Good, and then using the hands, maybe we bring the knees to a close. Bringing both of our knees back to our midline. We can gently bring, sorry, I think my internet cut out for just a moment. I don't know what's going on today. So we can maybe interlace the fingers and bring the right knee into the chest. And then allow the left leg to just extend on the mat. And just using those hands, gently squeeze in the knee to the chest for a gentle stretch. Once again, knowing the difference between pressure and pain. Maybe on the inhales, we bring it in just a little bit deeper. And exhale, let it go for a moment. And then we'll inhale just a little bit closer once again. And exhale, gently release. We can use the left hand to guide the right knee over to the left side of the body and find a bit of a spinal twist. Maybe the right hand comes to the right side. Maybe the gaze follows. Remembering to breathe. Remembering that every time we exhale, we melt just a little deeper into the stretch. And guiding that right knee back into the midline. Maybe using that hand. Maybe squeezing it in for one last stretch before we extend that right leg to join the left. And then on our next inhale, we lift that left knee into the chest. Maybe we interlace those fingers. And squeeze it into the chest for a nice big stretch on an inhale. And on an exhale, gently release. And we'll inhale, squeeze it in. And exhale, release. And maybe we use that right hand to guide the left knee over to the right side of the body. Maybe the left arm comes to the left side. Feel a nice stretch in the arm. Maybe the gaze follows. And guiding the left knee back into the midline. Maybe interlacing those hands around the knee once again. And then inhaling for one last stretch before we let the left leg join the right. Good. And when you're ready, maybe we roll over to the left side and gently push ourselves up, just coming into a fetal position and pushing ourselves up. Good. And then maybe swinging those legs around. We're going to come into our tabletop. Good. And just taking a moment in our tabletop, finding a few cats and cows at our own pace. Good. Maybe we find a bit of lateral movement, looking over the left shoulder and over the right shoulder. Good, and then tucking those toes into the mat, we're going to send the hips up to the sky for our downward dog, the first one of today's practice. Maybe we walk out the dog, gently pedaling out the feet. And pressing both heels into the mat, we'll inhale that right leg up for three-legged dog. And tending the body, we're going to bend the knee and bring our right knee to the top of the mat for pigeon. Good. That's okay. So just making sure that both hips are nice and even. It's okay if both of them aren't on the mat. Mine aren't. It's all good. And we can keep ourselves pressing away from the mat, or if you'd like, you can gently bring yourself a little bit closer. And we'll stay here for a few slow breath cycles. Remembering to slowly inhale and exhale through the nose. Consciously breathing intention into the practice. And then pressing those palms back into the mat, pressing our upper body away from the floor. Tucking that back toe and lifting the knee. We're going to lift that right leg back up into three-legged dog, and then let it come back down into the mat. For our down dog, maybe we pedal out the feet before we transition into the left side, pressing both heels under or into the mat, lifting the left leg for three-legged dog. And tenting the body, bending the knee. We're going to come into pigeon. Bring that knee to the top of the mat. Good. Releasing that back toe in the knee. Once again, making sure that the hips are nice and even. And we can stay right here, or if you'd like, you can bring your upper body down to feel a little bit deeper of that hip stretch. And as always, remembering to stop before we experience any pain. A little bit of a stretch, a little bit of pressure is good. And breathing into the stretch. Really making the most of it. And gently placing those palms back into the mat and slowly pressing back up. Tucking that right toe and lifting the knee. Lifting the left leg all the way up. And then back down to the ground. Maybe paddle out your dog. And lowering the knees into our tabletop. Good. Maybe taking a moment to press into the heels for our child's pose. And then pressing back up into tabletop. And we'll walk our hands up, bring our weight into our heels, and swing those legs forward. Maybe scooting ourselves a little bit down. When you're ready, we're going to find our Savasana. So starting in our seated staff pose, engaging the core, and slowly lengthening all the way down. Good. Maybe we find any last poses before we end our practice. Maybe we find happy baby if that feels good. Maybe rocking from side to side or staying perfectly still. Both are good. And then no rush, but eventually coming back to your Shavasana. You can stay in happy baby as long as you'd like. But when you're ready, coming to our Shavasana and closing those eyes, or maybe the eyes come to a gentle gaze on the ceiling. And in our Shavasana, breathing nice and deep. With every inhale, we fill those lungs. And with every exhale, we melt just a little deeper into the mat. Feeling all parts of our body just melt a little bit deeper. Feel a little bit heavier as we fully relax into our Shavasana. If any thoughts come into our mind, acknowledge them. Show no judgment, and just let them go. Now, it is 7:45. You can stay in your Shavasana as long as you'd like. I'm going to leave you here so that you can experience as long of a Shavasana as you would like to. But it has been a wonderful practice. Thank you so much, and I hope to have you again. Namaste.